I write Satisfaction in a dream, basically in bed. I wake up. I don't even remember. I put it down on a little early cassette player, fall asleep. In the morning, I remember nothing of this except that I see that the tape has gone from the beginning to the end. I run it back, and there is basically for 30 seconds, 50 seconds, Satisfaction.
Imagine waking up to find you've written one of the greatest riffs in rock history. Keith Richards calls it a miracle that took place, and that miracle changed pop music forever. The song that turned the Rolling Stones into legends. But how did a sleepy riff in a flooding London spark a cultural earthquake? From their gritty blues roots to a soulful cover recorded the way Keith always wanted, this is the full story of I Can Get No Satisfaction. Before Satisfaction, the Rolling Stones were just blues-obsessed kids hustling in London in 1962. Keith later said, "We were just trying to play the music we loved. Blues was our school." By 1963, manager Andrew Loog Oldham signs the band. Their first single, Chuck Berry's Come On, hits UK number 21. Their 1964 debut album tops the UK charts, mostly covers, pure grit. Oldham pitches them as the anti-Beatles. Would you let your daughter marry one? He'd ask. Hits like It's All Over Now and Little Red Rooster rule Britain, but America's slower. 1964's US tours flopped some nights. We were still finding our feet, Mick Jagger reflected. By 1965, on their third US tour, they're hungry for an original hit and desperate to prove themselves as proper songwriters. Early May 1965, Keith Richards is restless in his flat in London. The Stones are prepping for another US tour, but Keith's mind is adrift, tangled in personal ups and downs, itching to establish himself a songwriter. One night, he collapses into bed, his acoustic Gibson Hummingbird within reach, a cassette recorder nearby. In the quiet, inspiration strikes like lightning. Half dreaming, he strums a riff, that unmistakable da-da-da-da-da, and hums a melody, sketching the spark of a song about frustration. The tape captures it all, rolling on as he slips into bed, leaving a trail of snores.
I wish all the songs could come this way, but you just dream of them. And then the next morning, there they are, presented you. But Satisfaction was that sort of miracle that took place. I had one of the first little cassette players, Norelco, whatever, Philips, the same thing, really. But it was a fascinating little machine to me, a cassette player that you could actually just lay ideas down, wherever you were. I set the machine up and I put in a fresh tape. I go to bed as usual with my guitar, and I wake up the next morning. I see that the tape has run to the very end. And I said, well, I didn't do anything. I said, maybe I hit a button while I was asleep, So I put it back to the beginning and pushed play. And there, some sort of ghostly version is I can't get no satisfaction. And so there's a whole verse of it. I won't bore you with it all. And after that, there's, 40 minutes of me snoring.
It's like the song wrote itself, a fleeting gift from the night. Days later, and only 4 days before going into the studio, the Stones hit Clearwater in Florida for their tour. At the Fort Harrison Hotel, Keith shares the idea with Mick Jagger. Lounging poolside, Mick channels the tour's grind, America's loud TV ads, its shallow promises, the tension of youth, into lyrics that bite. Some hear echoes of Chuck Berry's swagger in the phrasing, but Mick molds it into something fiercer, kind of a middle finger to conformity. Together, they've got a weapon, a riff and words ready to shake the world. Richards, though, shrugged it off. I never thought it was anything commercial enough to be a single, he once said. Jagger, on the other hand, saw its a spark clearly. I think he thought it was a bit basic. I don't think he really listened to it properly. He was too close to it and just felt it was a silly kind of riff. Well, neither could have guessed it would reshape their future. On May 10th, 1965, the Stones roll into Chess Studios in Chicago, a spot where Stones heroes Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf once cut tracks. They try Satisfaction first as a slow, acoustic jam. Brian Jones weaving in mournful harmonica licks, Bill Wyman thumping a steady bass line. It's moody, folk-leaning, but lacks fire. It's more Dylan than Defiance. 2 days later, they hit RCA Studios in Hollywood. The band was ready to rethink the song. Keith was hearing soul in his head, so he plugs his Gibson Les Paul into a maestro fuzz tone pedal, a gadget he'd snagged to mimic horn sounds. Richards envisioned redoing the track later with the horn section playing the riff. This was just a little sketch because, to my mind, the fuzz tone was really there to denote what the horns would be doing.
It was a sketch for what the horns should do.
However, the fuzz was the hook, Mick argued, hearing rebellion in its raw edge. So, on May 12th, with Charlie Watts on drums, Bill Wyman laying down a very interesting bass groove that glues the song together, Jack Nietzsche, their go-to collaborator, playing tambourine and piano, Brian Jones on the acoustic rhythm, and the obvious Mick Jagger and Keith Richards performances, the band tried the song one more time. I left it in the studio thinking, this is good, but it needs working up, Richards said. But he's in for a surprise. I Can Get No Satisfaction hits US radio waves in early June 1965, loud, unapologetic, and nothing like the Stones had released before. The track was originally released only in mono, as was common for most bands before 1966. A stereo mix wasn't released until the mid-1980s, which revealed elements that were nearly inaudible in the original version. Interestingly, when Keith Richards first heard the song on the radio in '65, he was caught off guard. To his surprise, the producer, Andrew Loog Oldham, decided to keep the fuzzed guitar in the final version, making it the centerpiece of the track.
Andrew Oldham was a very important part of the Rolling Stones, more than most people who give him credit for or even think about. He was the one that pulled us all together and put these things together.
We left the track and went back out on the road. And 2 weeks later, I heard it on the radio. I said, no, that was just a demo. That spontaneous choice not only shaped the sound of Satisfaction, but also influenced the use of distortion in rock music for years to come. People don't talk much about how the fuzzy guitar sound in Satisfaction changed rock music. It was the first massive hit that featured that weird buzzy effect. Overnight, tons of bands started using it too. In November that year, Paul McCartney used it on his bass for the track Think for Yourself. It's actually hard to picture what Jimi Hendrix's music would be like without fuzz. The same goes for Page, Bach, Beethoven, and many others. Since the lyrics were a bit suggestive, especially the line about trying to make some girl, Odin, the band's producer and manager, figured it might hurt their chances on the radio. So he decided to bury it a bit in the mix. RCA engineer Dave Hassinger said, "I never heard the damn lyrics to Satisfaction for years. They kept telling me to bring the voice down more into the track. I thought they were crazy. I didn't know it had to do with the lyric and getting radio play. Anyway, it became a generational pulse. The track carried the sound of disruption, the voice of youth frustration, and whether Keith liked it or not, that fuzzy little riff had become a revolution. The Stones had finally achieved their goal of moving beyond being just a cover band. They proved to the world and to themselves that they could write original, impactful songs. It was the song that really made the Rolling Stones, changed us from just another band into a huge monster band. It has a very catchy title. It has a very catchy guitar riff. It has a great guitar sound which was original at that time. And it captures the spirit of the times, which is very important in those kinds of songs. A few days before its official release, the Rolling Stones introduced Satisfaction to the American audience. The band appeared on the TV show Shindig, though the performance had actually been recorded 6 days earlier. The instrumental backing was pre-recorded, while the vocals were performed live. In this version, Brian Jones plays acoustic guitar, and Keith Richards appears with a Gibson Firebird without the fuzz tone effect. This choice makes sense, as Richards originally used the fuzz in the studio only as a placeholder for the horn section. An interesting fact about that day is that the Stones' musical hero Howlin' Wolf also performed on the Shindig stage. Mick Jagger and Brian Jones gave him a warm introduction, clearly expressing their admiration.
So I think it's about time you shut up and we had Howlin' Wolf on stage.
Footage from the show captures Jones and Jagger watching his performance with genuine enthusiasm, visibly thrilled to see the legendary bluesman live. Although the Stones had hit it out of the park with their version of Satisfaction, Keith Richards' original idea wasn't lost. Otis Redding made that vision a reality. Otis took on the song with his signature soulful. Released in 1966 on Otis Blue, his version bursts with brass, the Memphis horns delivering the riff in bold, gospel-tinged blasts, just as Keith had once envisioned. The way Otis Redding ended up doing it is probably closer to my original conception for the song. It's an obvious horn riff. Otis got it right. Our version was a demo for Otis. Well, that was the story of Satisfaction. I'd been listening to Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street in the car these past few days. It's funny how revisiting an album you haven't heard in a while can hit you in a completely different way. That happens to me a lot. So while traveling through those records, I felt inspired to make this video about the Stones, and I really hope you've enjoyed it. So let me know what do you think in the comments. The last video, the one about Clapton, got some amazing feedback. The conversation was super fun in the comments. So thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts. And if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave a link at the end of this video, okay? And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We just hit 100 subscribers, which means a lot to me, seriously. Thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it and give the video a like as well, okay? So thanks for watching, and until next time.